the standard portrait adjustment in both Photoshop and Photopea. So starting with Photoshop, I have both images opened up in the programs as you can see. Let's make Photoshop a little bit bigger here. I'm always going to do my levels and curves first. So in my layers palette, make that non-destructive layer and go to my levels first. Red, green, and blue separately, pulling in towards the base of the mountain. Okay, looking at my before and my after, takes out some of those yellow tones that were there, and I'm going to then adjust my curves. This time I'm going to pull the highlights back just a little bit, so instead of going in my normal shape of the S where I'm intensifying those highlights, I'm purposely pulling the opposite direction so I can get a little bit more of the detail back. It was just slightly blown out. Okay, so looking at the shape of the S, then I'm going to increase my shadows just a touch. And let's look at my layers palette for my curves adjustment. Okay, you can see a little bit more detail was brought back there. And now I can merge my layers together. We can see our before and our after with our adjustments of our color and our contrast. And I do like my changes, so I'm again going to merge those together. You can either right click, go to merge layers, or Control E. Okay, in Photopea, going to our levels first. Then I'm going to go to my curves. Again, this time I'm going to take some of the highlights out. See my before and my after. And merge those two together so I have the same looking image on both of my programs. Okay, so back in Photoshop, in my layers palette, again, I'm going to make a copy of that layer, and now I'm going to go in and use my healing tools to adjust any of the major blemishes that I need to on the face. Remember to only change things that normally are not there. So freckles, mole, anything that is normally on the person's face that doesn't go away over time, go ahead and leave. But if there's anything like a scratch, a bump, a bruise, any acne, that is the type of thing that you would go back and adjust at this point. So I'm going to do the same thing in Photopea. Remember, Control plus zooms in so you can see what you're doing. And again, I'm going to use the patch tool to drag and bring them to any clear area. Look for areas of similar texture. As you're dragging, it's going to look or make the edit look a lot more like it was meant to be there if it follows the same texture as what was there before. So we have our basic edits in both programs on that layer that we just did. Let's make sure that everything looks smooth from the original to our adjustment, and it does. So again, Command E, and I can merge my layers together. Same thing over here. Okay, and then I can make another non-destructive layer in both programs to move forward. So now that we have the nice smooth skin there, let's go ahead and adjust the eyes. So I'm going to zoom in. This is a little trick of the trade here. We learned how to use our dodge tool. Think about when the light hits your eye. You have your eyelashes on top that are going to block some of that light. So most of the light is going to go to the bottom of your iris and form kind of a little crescent moon of a glow of whatever color your iris of your eye is. So you have the pupil in the center and you have the iris, which is the color of the muscle in your eye. I'm going to target specifically that iris in that kind of crescent moon shape and use my dodge tool to just lighten it up a touch. See, it's just giving it that little glow. Again, you don't want to overdo it. You can also make your brush a little bit bigger and swipe over the rest of the eye just a little bit. And really you can't see too much of a difference, which is good, but if I look at my original versus my edit, it really brings a lot of attention to those eyes, makes them nice and crisp. You can also, again, very, very, very little, if you use your sharpen tool that we learned before, just touch the eye a little bit with the sharpen tool to make sure it's nice and crisp, or gives the illusion of being nice and crisp, so they really pop. Okay, so let's do the same thing in Photopea. Again, I'm on that new layer. I'm grabbing my dodge tool and following that shape of the crescent moon. My exposure here is up to 50%. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Let's go to 10% again like we did in our other tutorial. Little bits at a time are better. Okay, you can also see right away that Photopea adjusts a little bit differently. I was getting more of those like amber reddish brown values in the eyes on my other one. If you want more of that, you can always use your sponge tool, which is going to be underneath the same option as the burn and dodge. Remember, you have two options with the sponge, either saturate, which is to add more color, or desaturate, which is going to pull the color out. So if I click on saturate, and just touch that a little bit in the same spot, a little too much there, I can really make the eye color pop. Again, you just want to make sure you're not overdoing it, just a little bit to bring attention to the eyes. Okay, you can see I did a little bit more in Photopea, so depending on your liking of what you're looking for, you can always adjust that intensity of the brush that you're using. All right, next step, we're of course going to merge those two layers together and make another non-destructive layer in each. Okay, and now let's smooth out the skin a little bit more. So I'm going to, on this layer above, go to Filter, down to Blur, and over to Gaussian Blur. Adjust your menu, make sure Preview is on. And I'm just going to pull it down so it is just slightly blurred. Okay, and now I am going to bring back everything on my picture that was underneath on this bottom layer. Notice that the bottom layer is really crisp. The top layer has that just slight blur to it. I want to add the blur to the skin, but not to the rest of the image. So this is going to be something brand new for you guys today. We're going to use a mask to do this. Now, you used a mask before to cut something out. This is a little different. When I add a mask to my layer, which is the same button, at least it looks the same as the one that we used over here, like a little camera. If you click that, it's going to add this extra piece to your layer. And using your brush tool set to black or white, I can go onto my picture here. And if I color with black, notice that it draws on this little box that I have here. Oh, my opacity is down to 53%. I'm going to turn that up. And I can go over everything that I want to bring back that is crisp in the picture. So think about the hair, the eyes, of course, we spent all that time making really nice. The eyebrows, touching a little bit. The mouth. bottom of the nose. Okay, so you can still see that the skin is nice and smooth, but everything else in the picture that should be crisp to make it look realistic is showing that it is nice and crisp. So here is our before and our after with our smooth skin. Let's do the same thing then in Photopea. Okay, so merge those layers, make another non-destructive layer. Okay, and let's blur that top layer. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Make sure preview is selected and we're just blurring just a touch. Okay, and now I'm going to add that layer mask. So in the bottom of my layers palette, hit the mask tool. Again, you can see that extra little piece that it added there. And I'm going to use my brush. And while I have black selected, I'm able to bring back anything that's underneath it and make it look crisp again. And again, you can see that I'm drawing on that little piece there. It's showing me what I'm going over. If you do mess up and you end up going over a part of the skin, you can take it away, just like we took it away before, using the flip-flop between white and black. So here, for example, if I messed up and I brought back the crispness on the cheek and I want it to be smooth like the other one, I could flip-flop my brush to white, and now I can go ahead and smooth that back out because it will take it away from this extra piece that we added in. And I can merge my two layers together. Pretty similar look in both of our programs at this point, besides the eye intensity in this photo obviously is increased just a little bit more. Okay, some final touches that you can do when you create your edits. I still don't love the color of this image. I think it looks just a little bit too blue, a little bit too cool. So I'm going to go to Image Adjustments and I can go to Color Balance. So this is where you can eyeball it and figure out what you want the color tones to look like. So I think it's a little too cool. I see a lot of those aqua tones in here that I'm not liking. So I can pull it just a little bit over to the warmer tones for the red and a little away from the blue. And I'm seeing a little green there now too, so I'm just going to take a touch of that out. Okay, way better, gives it that nice warm glow. Really, I should have made a non-destructive layer there so I could see my before or after, but I can tell right away that is much better than my original. So let's go to this one, which you can see the difference here versus there. This one's so much nicer. Let's do the same thing here. Image, actually let's make that non-destructive layer this time so you can see it. Image Adjustments and Color Balance. Okay, so again, I'm going to adjust my red, add just a little bit more, and I'm going to take out some of my green, and I am going to also take out just a little bit of that blue. Okay. So I ended up with 7, 2, and 2 as my adjustments here. And looking at her pictures again, very similar in the color value that I ended up with, but looking at my before and my after gives her a little bit more warmth back to her face. In case you want just a little bit more, here's a little pro tip in case you want to try it. I'm going to make one more layer above my original picture, so just a blank layer. Grab my brush tool, and I'm going to choose one of the highlight colors on the face. So if I hold down the Alt key on my keyboard, I can select one of those colors. Okay, and then I'm going to zoom in. Make sure my opacity is down, so I'm going to set it at like 40% here. I need a nice soft brush, so my hardness should be all the way down. And I am going to paint on top of the picture on that new layer. Dark circles can be covered. Any further blemishes that you might want to smooth just a little bit, you can go over using the brush. Okay, and it's a little bit too fake, like just to leave it like that. So if you go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, you can blur that out just a little bit so it's softer. Make sure you grab your eraser and erase it off of the eyes. You never want any of that blurred to get on the eyes. I would make sure my eraser is also at a hardness of 0, so it has a nice soft edge as I'm making any adjustments. Can also, again, get the eyebrows or anything else that you want to make sure are nice and crisp. Okay, so then again, I can hide that layer, see the before and after. If it's a little bit too harsh, which I definitely think is just a little too much, tone it down just like a notch here with the opacity. Okay, and you get that extra nice little soft glow on the face then to make it a little bit smoother.